Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about relationships between organisms in ecosystems. As we go throughout this lesson, guys, we're going to refer back to this food web that you made earlier on in the unit for the pond ecosystem, right? It shows the way energy flows through the different organisms in an ecosystem. So as in any ecosystem, this pond one being an example, there are many different ways organisms are related to each other or ways they interact with each other. One of those ways, we're going to talk about three today. The first one is called a predatory relationship. The definition of a predatory relationship is a relationship between two organisms in which one feeds on the other, or to say it differently, in which one eats the other, right? They get their energy from the other one. In the table you're filling out in your notes, guys, looks like this. So you have the type of relationship, you're going to put your definition in your notes, the definition right here. Then you're going to say, if you have two organisms that are related in this way, do they benefit or are they hurt, right? So in the example of predator-prey, one of them is eating the other one. That means one of the organisms benefits. We're going to put a plus sign because they like this relationship, right? It's a positive thing. The other one gets hurt because they get eaten, right? We're going to put a minus sign there or a negative sign to show that this relationship is not positive for them, right? It hurts them because they get eaten. The vocabulary to describe this, guys, this organism that eats another organism is called a predator, so it likes this type of relationship. And this is called the prey. The prey gets eaten in this relationship, right? Move myself back here a second. Okay, the example of this relationship is the one you've already seen today of the iguana and the snake. So even though in this particular video, guys, you saw that the iguana got away from the snakes, the relationship that describes these two animals is a predatory relationship, right? The snakes are the predator, the iguana is the prey. The snake is trying to eat the iguana, right? In this example on your food web, guys, you're going to see a lot of predatory relationships, right? Right? The frog is and the black aphid are related with a predatory relationship. The frog it does eat the black aphids, right? The frog also eats the aquatic leaf beetles, so these guys have a predatory relationship. The snake and the frog have a predatory relationship. The snake eats the frog. The blue heron and the carp have a predatory relationship because the blue heron eats the carp, right? The snake and the blue heron have a predatory relationship because the snake eats the blue heron, right? Whatever does the eating is called the predator. Whatever gets eaten is called the prey. So one of those examples we just talked about, just stick it in the part of the table that says example. The second type of relationship we're going to talk about, guys, is a competitive relationship. Here's how we define this type of relationship. It is a relationship between organisms in which organisms compete for the same resource. So they're trying to use the same resource or eat the same resource or whatever or whatnot, right? So we'll talk about some examples in a second. So let me move myself again so you can see me. Right, so this relationship competitive, put the definition here. In this example, both organisms don't benefit, right? They're both like competing with the other one. So let's say they're competing for food. Organism 1 and organism 2 want the same food. If organism 1 gets it first, then 2 doesn't get to eat, right? If organism 2 gets it first, then organism 1 doesn't get to eat, right? So in this situation, it's a negative interaction for both of them because they're both can be hurt by it, right? In theory, if there's only a certain amount of food and they're both competing for it, one of them could die if the other one gets all the food, right? So it's a negative relationship is what we call it because they're both competing for the same resources. The example you saw earlier today, guys, was this one. Right, in this example, guys, there's a buffalo carcass, and the lions and the hyenas are competing to eat it, right? And they're kind of like fighting each other because they both want the same resource, right? In this food web, examples of competitive relationships include the black aphid and the aquatic leaf beetles, right? They're competing to eat the cattails. The black aphid eats it all first, the aquatic leaf beetles are going to die, right? Another example could be the blue heron and the trout, right? They both eat the carp, right? So if the carp isn't alive, if the blue heron gets all the carp, then the trout's not going to have any food to eat, right? They're competing for those same resources. You also could have organisms competing for like places to live. So it's not necessarily food. They could be competing for like space in which to build their homes or build their nests, right? That's another way you see this competitive relationship take place. The third type of relationship, guys, is called a mutually beneficial relationship. And what that means is that both organisms benefit. So a relationship between two organisms in which both organisms benefit, what you'll notice is that in this type of relationship, organisms need each other, right? And oftentimes they need each other to a point where they can't survive without the other one because they both benefit so much. So in this example, both organisms benefit. That's what a mutually beneficial relationship is. The example you saw here is this one.
Its wide, rasping mouth to scour the hippo's hide.
Right, so the hippo gets cleaned, so it benefits, and the fish get to eat, right? So the relationship between the hippos and the fish in this situation is called mutually beneficial. They both benefit. This isn't a relationship, guys, that is really impossible, really, to communicate on a food web or a model like this, right? Because we don't know how these things might have mutually beneficial relationships. Maybe the black aphids clean the trout's skin. Maybe they live on the trout's skin and clean it. We don't know. We'd have to do more research, right? Or maybe we could say the frogs, or let's say maybe the trout live within the cattails, right? So they swim underneath the roots of the cattails, and by doing that, the trout fertilizes the cattails. When it goes to the bathroom, it fertilizes it to make it grow better. But the cattails also protect the trout, so the blue herons don't see the trout, so the blue herons don't eat it, right? So in that case, it'd be a mutually beneficial relationship. It's really difficult / impossible to communicate on a food web when there's a mutually beneficial relationship, two organisms both benefiting from each other. All right, so guys, when we talk about relationships between organisms and ecosystems, you're going to see these three types of relationships: predatory, competitive, and mutually beneficial in all ecosystems, okay? So as we continue to study ecosystems in this next portion of the unit, be on the lookout, like this B, for these three types of relationships, because you're going to see them pop up a lot, and these relationships really do affect how ecosystems change and function and reach stability over time, okay? So be on the lookout for these three types of relationships: predatory, competitive, and mutually beneficial.